working?
Yep.
All right. Well, everyone. Hello. I know. Seems like I know a lot of you, which is nice. And then some of you I don't know. So hopefully, I get to know you throughout the conference. So I'm really excited to be here. This is my third year at Langfest now. So I came 2 years ago for the first time. Came last year, spoke last year, and then came this year, and obviously speaking this year as well. And so I'm obviously, as you guys can tell, going to be talking about Gujarati. So funny story as to why I chose this. So I chose to do this approximately a year ago when I chose that this would be my topic for my talk. A little bit less than that actually, but one of the reasons I chose it was that I've been actively learning Gujarati for a while, and I knew that if I didn't have some kind of concrete reason to actually study, I would get lazy on a day-to-day basis. Like, if I'm giving a talk on Gujarati, I better be at a point where I feel confident that I can stand up and actually talk about it. So that was kind of the initial, and one of the reasons, anyways, to why I talked about it. So, very quick background on me. So, like I said, my name's Azren. I'm from Calgary, so more on the west side of Canada. Born and raised there. My mom's side is born in Uganda. My dad's side is born in Fiji. Mom's roots are from Gujarat. Dad's roots are more from the southern India. They came to Calgary in the 70s. Met in Calgary, and then obviously I was born and raised there. I grew up speaking Gujarati, so I grew up speaking it. My family speaks a slightly different, I guess you say what one might consider perhaps a non-standard varietal of Gujarati. So it's more specifically the Kathiawadi Gujarati, so it's a different varietal of it. It's still Gujarati, it's definitely still the same language, but it's quite different. And so I grew up speaking that, and so whenever I hear people speak from, let's call it, a major city or anyone that wasn't from that region, it would be kind of difficult for me to understand, especially because I grew up in Canada. I'm not sure if anyone has the experience of learning a language just with their family. Growing up with their family, obviously you speak it, but there's also so much you just don't, there's just so much you don't know because you didn't grow up in a country or region that spoke that language. My situation was very similar. I also couldn't read and write Gujarati. I went to India in 2018. Yes, 2018. Went for 2 months, and for 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, had a private tutor. We just sat down, we studied. So this lady was my tutor. It was a very interesting experience. This lady was her friend, and they had me over for food at her house. And we took that selfie. I believe that was probably their first selfie ever. I think so. Because they're like, can you take a selfie on my phone? And like those camera phones that, like with the first cameras ever, like some of the first camera phones. Have you seen those, like the little tiny block ones that had like a, 0.1 megapixel camera, whatever. Can you take a selfie on mine? I was like, I guess so. So we're pointing like the back facing camera. I'm trying to like, no idea if it's not in focus. It's not a good camera. And it's like, okay, thank you. So anyway, I'm pretty sure this is the first actual selfie. And yeah, it was a really cool experience. I have a younger sister. She's 24 years old. 24 years old. She's disabled, so she was born very early. But she's kind of my best buddy. We are best friends. What else? Anything else about myself? For work, I teach English. I run the Calgary Language Nerds, so we teach English, French, Spanish primarily in Calgary. We do various different language learning events for people in Calgary as well. So social events, learning events, all sorts of different things. And yeah, there's a very quick bio and intro me. Oh yeah, so why Gujarati? So I grew up speaking it with my family, but it was not something I wanted to speak it like I speak English or like my French and Spanish. Like it's where it's where I'm very confident in it, and not something that I speak conversationally-ish, but not super fluently, if that makes sense. started learning it about a year ago, and still learning. Still a lot of stuff I don't know. I still don't speak it or have a handle on it like I do in English, but I'm way ahead of where I would have been, call it pre 2018, where I started actually studying positive. So I don't have a lot of time because it's only a 45-minute slot. So basically what we'll focus, I decided it'll be good to focus on just a couple of elements. One would be the alphabet and just the phonetics of it and how it sounds. Two would be just look at one element of grammar. We're just gonna look at just like a simple present tense, like what does that look like? And then I'll just open it up for questions after that, and we can do it that way. I wish we had more time. We can do so much, but it's okay. So this is the alphabet. Show of hands. Anyone actually speak Gujarati or can read Gujarati in the room? Anyone? Why everyone's ish? That's not a surprise. I'm not surprised. I almost should have said, can anyone except for Kevin? Yeah, I feel like Kevin needs to speak every language. That's what I feel. I know it's not true, but I feel like it. Every time, oh yeah, that one. Anyway, so anyone apart from Kevin? Kind of. Hindi, anyone? Okay, so more hands for Hindi. Okay. So if you can read Hindi, it is very easy to be able to look at Gujarati and for the most part figure out how to read it because they're reasonably similar. The biggest difference is Hindi. I actually should put a chart. Hindi, the biggest difference is Hindi has a line on top of all the letters. So I'll just, for example, if we just pull open this, like you just look at, not this one. If we literally just look at these, right? Like Hindi, the biggest difference is Hindi will have this line across the top on everything, but Gujarati doesn't. That's probably one of the biggest differences. A lot of the letters are look identically the same. Aside from that, some are a little different, but yes. So we'll have some fun here. So I will say a letter, and we'll have everybody else say a letter as well. Sounds good? So this one, ga.
Ga.
Yes, ga. So similar to an English K, like the word like cat. The biggest difference is in cat we have if you ever put your hand in front of their mouth and go cat.
Cat.
Everyone should feel air hitting their hand. In this ga, there's no air hitting your hand. It's just a ga. It's not ka, but ga. If people speak Spanish, it's the same as a K or like in the word que in Spanish. It's the same same ga sound as in Spanish. Like a ga. Yeah, ga, no, ga. So I have ga. Now we have ka. This is way more similar to our English K, right? Like in the word cat. Well, cat with a C, but you know what I mean by like a ka sound. Much more similar, probably a little stronger though. Like in English, it's not quite as strong as in Gujarati. So ka. Yeah, ka. So you have ka, ka, ga. Ga. Essentially the same as the letter G in English. Yeah, it's like a ga. Nothing really difficult there. Ga is the next one. So it's like a nice, comes from your belly. It's like a good, it's like you're a warrior. Like a good strong. You put it basically for anyone who studied any level of phonetics at all. A lot of these ones with an H, right? Like ka, ga, cha. You know, if you look at like ha, dha, bha. A lot of these H ones, not these ones. Dha, right? A lot of those ones, they're just aspirated. So what you're doing is you're just putting extra pressure, and you're basically blowing out a lot of air from your mouth as you say. Is what you're doing. They're very. I think of them like a warrior. I feel like a warrior says like bah, like a it's a very strong like kind of letter, if that makes sense. That's what I picture in my mind anyway. So we have ka, ka, ga, gha. No, we have cha. Cha is easy. We have it in English, like in choke. Not quite like choke actually, but cha. And then we have a harder, more of an aspirated version, cha.
Cha.
Yeah. I always figure in
Will, yeah.
Will, I think Will got the best. Will gets
I already speak Gujarati. So.
I can tell by pronunciation of Gujarati.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you have ka, ka, ga, gha, cha, cha. Then we have ja.
Ja.
Ja is easy. Nothing really to talk about there. Now, fun fact about Gujarati, which is, it's a fun fact and also makes it incredibly difficult for someone to learn, is the fact that there's not a lot of people who want to learn Gujarati. So the challenge behind not a lot of people wanting to learn the language becomes that there's not a ton of resources. You'll be hard pressed to find many Gujarati tutors, and when you do find one, or a teacher period, and if you do find one, they're not necessarily fantastic. Not necessarily, right? Because, it's just like when there's a lot of teachers, some can teach well, some can't teach well. Some teach well but don't match your learning style. There's a lot of factors. So Gujarati, there's not a lot of teachers, not a lot of textbooks, not a lot of resources, period. And, if you look at more, let's call them, I don't want to say established, but maybe like popular languages to learn in quotations, Spanish, French, German, things like that. There's very clear rules as to, this is how this works. This is how this is correct. This isn't correct. The number of times I've read stuff or looked at stuff and people spell things differently with a different letter, different way, and it's just accepted, right? Or the number of times English influences Gujarati. And you'll literally see, my grandpa was showing me a diabetes journal in Gujarati, and he's like, read this word. And I'm like, and I was just learning to read at the time, it was really difficult. I was like, sugar. Sugar.
Yeah.
And I was like, sugar? He's like, keep going. I was like, sugar level. Sugar level. Oh, sugar level. Right? And there is, like, we have a word for sugar. Khan, we do. But in this journal, they use sugar. Right? Anyway, I don't know why I thought of that as I looked at this letter, but it occurred to me. Anyway, we have cha, cha.
Cha. Cha.
Yeah.
Cha.
Yes. So it's the same concept we followed here. Each letter so far, the first version is just non-aspirated, the second version is a stronger, warrior-like aspirated version. Now, show of hands, who knows what retroflex means? Very few. Okay, perfect. So, we have a T, but it's not the same T as in English. In English, our T, tongue goes to the roof of our mouth, and we go like we go like in the word top, for example, right? Or to, or whatever word. Gujarati, not quite. Our tongue actually curls back a little bit. The tongue curls back. Still using the tip of your tongue, still on the roof of your mouth, but it curls back a bit. And we're yes, I hear some good ones. So if you want to just like, the easiest way, if you're good at like, it sounds so terrible, but this is the direction we're gonna go in. It's like, if some people that imitate like an Indian accent. That's the people often default into like doing that T. They often default into it. Like a da, 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 right? So da, and then we have ta. Da and ta. So again, da is like the non-aspirated, the weakling one, and then we have the warrior version, which is ta.
Ta.
Yeah, ta. So most importantly, just curl your tongue back a little bit. Da, ta. Then we have the same concept. It's a retroflex D. So English D, tongue goes to the roof of our mouth, but it's more flat, if that makes sense. In Gujarati, this one is retroflex. Your tongue curls back just a touch. So ta.
Da.
Yeah, good. Very good. That was a good one. I hear some good ones. Yes. If it was a small, weirdly, I expected like 3 people in the room. So I was like, Gujarati, you want to listen to Gujarati? Clearly, you want to. So I was almost ready to be like, all right, let's pull up some chairs. Let's actually do. But it's okay. I was ready to like make a circle. Be like, all right, let's just chat. Let's have a lesson. But that's okay. So da ta da ta. So a stronger ta. All right, this one I call it funny end. It's there's no other way to put it, but it's a funny end. It's bam. So if I actually need to look into, I'll need to figure out phonetically what that is and like how to write. Like I actually don't know. Basically, it's like an N, similar to an N, like a na na na, but tongue curls back further and it's super nasal and you gotta flick your tongue forward. Ram. That's like what we say. No. So like the most common word you could think of would be like water. Pani. Yeah.
That's the same Punjabi name.
Oh yeah, Punjabi has it. Punjabi actually has it. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Any tips for how to say it? No? Yeah, it's a difficult. They don't have it. It's like pani is what they would say with an N. Yeah. In many ways, I don't speak Hindi, let's start there. But from what I know about Hindi, in many ways it's actually simpler. In many ways. So for example, Gujarati has 3 genders. Feminine, masculine, neutral, or neuter, whatever the real word is. Hindi has 2, masculine, feminine, right? Gujarati has a couple sounds that are quite bizarre, and I am, let's say I'm 95% sure, I could be wrong. It's funny, my family's gonna watch this, I'm gonna get so much flack on this if I'm wrong, but I'll be like, Azren, good presentation, but that's not true. Anyone speak Hindi in the room? There's no run on Hindi, is there? I'm like.
There's a letter for it, but people
it's
never
not-
pronounce it that
Yeah.
way. Yeah,
Okay.
it's always N. It's the regular canto.
Cool. Yeah. So there we go. We got confirmation. So yeah. Now we have the and ta. So the and ta. It's a dental T. So tongue goes to the same place as when you say like a th in English, like a th as in the word the, right? Like the same place. Or like thin, right? That tongue goes the exact same place. But basically your tongue whacks against your teeth and makes a th and not a th. Okay, so th and th. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, th and th. Do it again, Krista? Do it again? Th is good, th is not so good.
No, it's rubbish.
Your th was okay though. Yes, but th was okay. Th.
Oh my god.
This should be a good. Yeah, but you basically build pressure behind your teeth, and then you release it with your tongue, and you get a nice th. That's better. Yeah, th. So th and th. Now we have the and th. The is really easy. It's like saying, there's many things you can do with it. Like the word the in English, like the cat, the person, the water bottle, the whatever. The, it's essentially the same as English, or very similar. And then we have the, which is a stronger version of this the. Almost like you told someone like, well, duh, but you're like, huh. So the and the. We're gonna breeze through a couple because they're really easy. Na pa fa ba. There's not a lot going on there. Like very similar to English. I'll just point out this ba is not a p. In English we say more of an aspirated p. It's more of there's more air that comes out of our mouth. Like in the word like pot. Same thing, you take your hand and you say pot. You'll feel air hit your hand when you see that p. In Spanish. In Gujarati it's more like a ba. We have it in English too, in the word spy, or any SP combination we have it. Like spot, spy, spin, spoon, spawn, anyway, etc. Any SP words have a sp, like any of those sp, that when you say sp, that's bu and sp is a bu. Sp and sp is a bu, yes. That makes some sense. That's the only thing I'll point out. The rest are same as English. So we have ba. How do we see this one?
Pa.
So ba and pa. It'd be like, I wonder if we have something in English. Like, I don't think we have a ba in English. I can't think of any. Sorry? Clubhouse. Yeah, ish. Yeah. So clubhouse. Yeah. If you see like clubhouse, actually that's a good point. Yeah, that could work. Clubhouse would work. That could work. That's a very good one. I remember that one. Yeah, clubhouse works. When you say clubhouse, that transition from a B in club to H in house, you will make a semi-p to an extent. Right. I bet you there's something with a lot of these like ha sounds, these more aspirated ones. I bet you there's something there in English where you could figure it out, but I haven't put enough thought into that. So these are easy. This one even looks kind of like an M, right? Ma, and ya. Right, ma, ya, nothing difficult there. R, just like in Spanish, like a single R, ra, 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 ra. So if you, easiest way to think of it, it's kind of like I'll give you the Spanish example when I teach Spanish. It's kind of like saying the word louder. With the D in the word louder, let's say louder on the word. So if you look at the word louder, right? Louder, this D in louder is actually a essentially. Right, louder. Right, louder. It's essentially the same, if not the same. So we'll go to Spanish for like 30 seconds, it'll work. So when you say the name Laura, right, Laura, right, Laura and louder, they're very similar. It's the same sound as in Gujarati. It's a very, very soft D. If I keep this in my hand, I'll start throwing it and it'll break. I throw things in my hand. Yeah, so
Let's get out of here.
Get out of what?
Let's get out of.
Let's get out of here. Oh, let's get out of here. Yeah, there's hundreds of examples in English. We have it all sorts of places. Like, I gotta go, bottle, water, a pot of tea, and like tea in the pot of tea. That we have it in a billion places in English. We just don't think about it. But la is easy, like in English. La. We have va. Not much to talk about there. So this is a fun 2 letters. I cannot. Now, it'll be cool to do an update on this in a year or whatever, because my current stance on these 2 letters is that they're pronounced the same, but everybody swears. No, they're not. They're pronounced the same. My belief, I could be wrong. My belief is that at one point in time they were pronounced different, but now they're pronounced the same.
Yeah.
That's my belief on the 2 letters.
I think the main point here is they are exactly the same as in Hindi. And Hindi book they explain why they differ. So maybe we should learn it from Hindi and then.
That's actually something I've thought about doing, is to learn Hindi for the purpose of having a better understanding of Gujarati. I've legitimately thought of that because of the lack of resources with Gujarati. Yes, it's really difficult. So, but yeah, to my knowledge, they're pronounced the same, but once upon a time they were different. So it's just like in English, shut.
Shut.
And like in the word shower, like in the word whatever. This is easy. Sa, like that. Nothing crazy there. Ha is easy. And then we have funny L. Funny L is ra. You know what
Oh, that's a hard one.
Like
Yeah.
goggling?
like in what?
Like goggling?
No, that's a French R.
For you.
It's like you know what it is? You know when people try, who cannot roll their R's? You know when you try and roll your R's, you guys go People often do that when they're trying to roll their R's because they don't know what's happening. That's that. So it's like trying to roll. It's like if you're trying to roll your R's, but you have no idea what it means to roll your R's, and you're like, you hear someone go, and you're like, whoa, that sounds like that's. That's how you say that one. If you can say ra, this is essentially the same, just not nasal. If you can say it. If you can't, then that's not very helpful. So maybe that helped one person. Or maybe not. Me and my mom used to have funny conversations about these. Before I could read, we used to talk about these because my mom, I forget why we would talk about them, but so we have 2 words. We talk about pani, which is water, and then we have nud. Nud is a tap, right? They're very similar. The last letters are very similar. But my mom would be like, yeah, I don't know if it's like, I don't know which one it is, and she can never, whenever people would say it, she would just be like, is it the one in Nud or is it the one in phonics, so she know how to write stuff or how to recognize which one it was because they're very similar. And she used to never. I had to figure out what the difference was just by studying it and like trying to figure it out because my mom couldn't. No one could explain it. No one really could explain how they worked or what the difference was, which is my biggest struggle with Gujarati is that it's very difficult to find people that really can explain. Oh, this is how this works. Literally the difference. Okay, we'll get there another day. I'll be here forever if I get into that. We have it in the vowels. Vowels. E. Aha, yes, I was waiting for that. This is another one of my things. So we have a short E and a long E. However, again, based on my hypothesis as of today, that they do not distinguish when people actually speak. Although there is a short and long E, I don't think people are distinguishing when they're speaking. That's I could be wrong, I might change my mind later, but as I'm thinking about it, as I've listened, I paid attention. I love phonetics. Phonetics is like I really, really enjoy it, and it comes reasonably naturally to me. I like practicing, I really enjoy it, and to my knowledge, what I've observed so far, I do not think people actually distinguish. Same with oo and oo, long or short and long. Again, I don't think people are distinguishing. I really don't. Important thing for vowels to note is although you can write vowels as so, when you see them in words, they usually will not show up like this for the most part. You actually add little accent marks to letters. I'll show you an example. I'll go ahead a couple. So if you look at the word like tu, right, tu, the oo goes underneath. You don't see an oo beside it. It goes underneath, for example. Anyway, but these are the vowels by themselves and they're not the word. So you have oo and oo, same as not difficult. E, I, o, o. Yeah, vowels are not hard. One thing I'll point out, there are some other letters, technically speaking, in Gujarati. In fact, I've forgotten two common ones. There's also ksha. That's a very good point. I just thought of that actually. There are two that I should have written down here. There's ksha and there's gna. Yeah, that's a good point. Those two should be on here actually, now that I'm like thinking about it. There are others as well, but you don't see them super frequently. Yes.
How do you type these letters on the keyboard?
Difficultly. You have a few options. So you can, on a Mac, for example, they have a Gujarati keyboard. That's an option. The easiest way that I have found is if you go to Google Input, if you just Google Input, and then you select the language of Gujarati, you type in English, like English letters, and then it'll give you options to for what words you might be trying to type in Gujarati based on the phonetics of it, and you select the words more. I found that's the easiest way. However, fun fact, people when they text to each other, when they write, they don't write in Gujarati. They write in, I'll just show you, they'd be like, for example, if I want to say my name is Maru Nam Azren, here's what I would write to you. If I was texting you, I'd be like this. What's that name? Azren. I'd literally write that. So people don't. I remember I met a guy, smart guy, educated guy in India, super intelligent. He's helping me with Gujarati to answer my questions and such. And I remember I was like, hey, can we just cover the alphabet? There's a couple questions, stuff. He's like, oh, the alphabet, eh? Yeah, hi. He's like, yeah, we could do that. I was like, okay. And he sits down, he's like, so we have ka, and he writes it, then we have ka, I think is next. And he's like, oh yeah, we have that. It wasn't not an automatic, he can read, he has no issue with reading, no issue with writing, no issues. He's not, what's the opposite? Literate. He's literate. But for him to actually go, here's our alphabet, here, is not, not natural. Why did I get there? Oh yeah, because people don't actually text with that, they don't It's not younger people. It's not necessarily the most common. Not necessarily the most common thing in the world. Not necessarily. So I remember having a Gujarati keyboard on my phone, and I like text with it. And my friend's like, "Yo, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, you text with? Oh, that's interesting." And I was like, "What do you do?" He's like, "I just text with English on it." I'm like, okay, I can do that too. It's way faster. I don't have to like look for like one letter. You know, like when you first learn to type, and people go like. That's what I felt like in Gujarati. By the way, typing is another lost skill I found out. Have you seen people type? Younger people type on an actual keyboard? Ask a 12-year-old to type on a keyboard. It'll blow, even a 16-year-old to type on a keyboard will blow your mind. What that looks like. All right. So we have like 15 minutes. I've got some sentence structure stuff, but I think a better idea is if we open it up for questions to start. I want to make sure there's time. So let's open up for questions. Yes?
When people are texting with the English letters, do they have any kind of like markers to distinguish between things we don't have in English?
Excellent question. No, which makes it really difficult for a learner because, for example, when you write an A, it could be up. Typically when you write an A in Gujarati, it is read as up. People think as like the letter A is not A but up. However, there's also an A, like marunam, right? Or whatever. There's different words with an A as well. But native Gujarati speakers will just distinguish when they see it, like, oh yeah, he doesn't mean num, he means nam. Oh yeah, of course, they don't distinguish. But for me, I'm like, if I don't know the word, I'll be like, how the heck do I read that? Like, how am I supposed to say that? Or like, this one will be an L, ra becomes a wait an L, right? Like, ra, the word is an N. Both dha and dha are written as DH, right? Actually, you even noticed I've written them both as DH. Same with like, oh, even, you know, da and the are both written to D. So so you just have to know. You just have to know. And then there's people, and then there's of course people that mess it up. I had a guy who swore to me, and he's wrong. Well, maybe I'm standing up and I'm wrong, but I'm reasonably sure he's wrong. I'm really sure. I'm pretty sure, man. There's a word like maru, right? Maru has a ra, but the problem is ra sounds really close to da when you're speaking quickly. So he would write it with da, and he's like, no, Azren, you're writing it wrong. And I checked with so many people, and they're like, no, he's wrong. And I was like, really? And he's like, he would adamantly when I text him, he's like, no, you spelled it wrong. You gotta write a D, not an L. I was like, So then you gotta know even more from there. Yes.
Going back to the keyboard,
Go
I think there is an online keyboard.
Oh, there's various.
Lexicals where you
There's
can
various.
just select the letters and then it goes up into the upper part of the screen and then just copy and paste it.
There's various. Yeah, there's quite a few.
It's like lexilogos. Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of keywords.
I have just a question about the language.
Ask away.
How many people speak it, and where do they speak it?
Yep.
In India.
So if you get a Gujarati, Gujarati is like, so if you look at the map of India, I'll have to pull it up, we have a computer. Faster. It's literally, so if you look at India, it's like on the west, northwest side, kind of central west, really, if you think about it, almost central, almost. Hey, Kristen.
Hey! Thanks for that.
Yeah, no worries. Let's just do India map. Or Mapo, that's fine too. So I don't like this new, it's right here. This is a good drop. Right here.
Oh.
So if you zoom on just a bit so you can see where it is. How big is that? It's a little small, but yeah, right on here. So I was studying in, we'll even show, this map doesn't show the city. When I was there, I was in Vadodara, which is, why isn't it?
Oh.
Well, that's not. No, I wasn't in that building. That's not where I was.
Click on maps next to images.
There we go. We got some techies in the house. Right here. Oh. Alright. Oh my goodness. This is how technology. Okay, let's just zoom in on this. But it's not even letting you, it's not even zooming in more than that. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
There we go,
Yeah.
you can see it. Cool.
And about how many people are speaking it?
I want to say 60 million.
60.
I
In a town.
I don't know where
That's
I read
pretty
that.
good.
I want to say that. I want to say that, give or take. I think that's reasonably accurate.
Is there like a good helping verb that I can use if I forget the Gujarati verb in Hindi, have like karna to do in say an English word and then karna, or in Korean is like hada to do say an English word and then I forgot karna, or is there like good help?
What do you mean? Dr. Bennett?
If I forget how to say to cook
Okay.
something,
Yeah.
in a few other languages, I can just fill in the English word cook and then throw in the doing verb.
Oh, I know that
Kind of stuff.
no. So the question goes in here. The question was, if you forget how to say something, is there any kind of suffix or something you can add to the English word, which then makes it into the language? So like in French, we'd have like a, like I'm, walking, or like. To my knowledge, no. Not to my knowledge. No, it's a good question though. I think was your hand up or no? Hold them up. Okay, Kristen.
Yes, my knowledge of Gujarati is 0.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Not anymore.
Can I get some phrases, please?
Sure. Why don't we
Yeah.
go with the phrase?
Phrase book. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't have. I had one. Okay. Let's just do. Never mind. Well, here's a few, but I'll tell you a few.
Yeah.
So like, my name is Maru.
Maru.
Nam.
Nam.
Say your name.
Maru.
I knew it. Che.
Che.
Yeah, Maru Nam. In my case, Azren Che.
Che.
Yep.
What's the che?
Che.
Che.
Verb. That I have. Here we go. So the verb to be goes at the end in simple sentences. So for I, it'll become. Oh, I didn't write the English, but that's okay. You'll have to deal with it. You have to remember how to read. After that very fast. And we didn't even cover all the little accents underneath and such. But so you have chun for I.
Chun.
Right. So like I like that. I use it a bit. Like like I am like whatever like if you, whatever you are, be whatever it is. So it goes at the very end. Right. We have for you it's che. So like on ask if we're like friends, and that's informal, right? If we kind of like follow along, this tu is informal. Tame is formal, right? So same as many languages. Tu and those two versions of you. So like if I was asking like how are you, right? Game and we're friends, right? Game che.
Game che.
Or tu game che. If you wanna really get the full game che. Right? More formal game cho.
Cho.
Right? If you don't know them, right? Or tame game cho. Yes, that's the verb. That's what the che is. We were asked that for the last time, but that's what the che is. Yes.
Another quick question.
Ask away.
Is the are there pronouns or do you drop the pronoun for like to be?
There,
Like do you say
yes,
I am or do you just say like
No,
am?
So like here's our pronouns.
Oh, okay.
Ta-da.
Hun che.
So
Hun chun.
yeah, so yeah, exactly. And whatever you are, right? So
Okay. Oh, okay.
we have a informal tu and formal you. Or informal you. There's two we's as well. There's an inclusive we and an exclusive we, if that makes sense. So there's one we where you are including the speaker with you,